Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the dedicated personal statements class. This is session number 4. How's everybody doing? So I'm looking at the chat box right now. Good. I'm doing well. Okay, so hopefully everybody is doing good. It's been kind of a crazy week. I think we can all agree to that, right? Been kind of a crazy day, a crazy week, a crazy year. 2021, just as crazy as 2020. Hopefully we get back to some normalcy. Is anyone craving some normalcy? I feel like I'm craving some normalcy. You know what I mean? It's like, can't things just be normal? You know what I mean? Jacqueline says, what is normal? Yeah, good point. What is normal? I guess normal is what I grew up with. But maybe that's the problem. I don't know. All right, so personal statements. The good news is about education is that whenever you feel down in the dumps, you can always focus on your education. Isn't that the good stuff? That's the good stuff about education, right? Whenever the world seems really crazy, you can always just kind of focus on your studies, and then eventually it'll pay dividends in the long run. So let's get into it. Somebody asked, is this the last class for personal statements? No, it's not. In fact, we'll do a quick class breakdown. So our first session was follow the directions. Our second session was organize your composition. Our third session, which we talked about last time, was be honest, be vulnerable. Today, what we're talking about is it's not really about you. Next week, we're going to be talking about utilize powerful writing techniques. And then finally, number 6, proofread, 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 proofread. So before we begin, does anybody have any questions? All right, let's do it. So today we're going to be talking about it's not about you. It's called a personal statement, but it's not really about you. At least my opinion. Caveat, everybody, this is just my opinion. I'm not an expert on personal statements, so you're just hearing kind of one dude's perspective, that's all. All right, so what do I mean by that? So that's kind of a paradox, right? Think of a personal statement as a service statement. It's not really a personal statement, in my opinion. It's more about how do you plan on helping the community, basically. What service are you going to provide? How are you going to advance civilization? You know, like how are you going to contribute in your small part? So what I wrote here is focusing too heavily on your dreams and desires, emphasizing too markedly your resume or CV, and highlighting too blatantly your predispositions are mistakes. I feel like all of these are mistakes. The more important question is how you're going to contribute to society, how you're going to leave this earth better than you left it. And it can't be bullshit. See previous class, right? If you write a personal statement saying, my dream is to cure cancer, that sounds amazing, but one person in 2021 cannot cure cancer. So it's going to come across a little bit as a false narrative. That would be something that thousands, hundreds of thousands of medical experts all contributed to in their own way, right? So it's important when you talk about this stuff that you maintain honesty, all right? So does everyone understand by this is kind of a paradox? The personal statement's not necessarily about you. Yeah, so hopefully you kind of get what I'm saying here. Okay, let's move on. So in my opinion, when a personal statement asks you about various dreams that you can seek or, you know, that you can kind of go after, one example would be something like this: advancing the literature. How will you move science forward? Can somebody raise their hand? What do you think I mean by this? If nobody raises their hand, I'm going to have to call on the volunteer Greg. He always volunteers. He's a really nice guy, but he only volunteers at the last minute. So what do I mean by advancing the literature? Greg? Okay, Greg, what do you think? Well, advancing the literature means basically doing research. publishing articles in journals, trying to address problems that haven't been addressed before in a specific discipline, doing studies that in some way benefit the field or benefit society. So basically, it's all about research. If you write about your dreams to do research, do you think that would come across as a good thing or a bad thing? That would be a good thing, right? Because if you basically say, I want to explore this issue, this issue, this issue, and this issue, you're basically saying, I want to contribute in my own small way to the scientific advancement of this field, right? That's a good thing. Another thing is something about addressing modern problems. How will you help society overcome some of its issues? So in the chat box, what are some issues that modern society is dealing with? Yep, obesity would be a good one. What else do we got? Homelessness would be a good one. Corruption would be a good one. Access to healthcare would be a really good one. I like that, Cameron. Global warming issues. Gender and workplace equality. I like all of that as well. Yeah. How about rising income inequality? Okay, there's another one, right? Every year, the rich get a little bit richer. The middle class gets a little bit smaller. Stuff like that. All right. Number 3, helping the less privileged. To me, I think this is a big one. I think admissions committees really like to see this kind of stuff. But, don't put it if you don't really believe it. You know what I'm saying? Again, you have to be honest here. So, in my opinion, we're not all granted the same opportunity in life. Merely applying for a master's or PhD indicates we have some kind of privilege. Do you guys agree with that? Just the fact that we're applying for a master's or a PhD, does that indicate some kind of privilege? In my opinion, yes. Now, feel free to disagree with me, but in my opinion, yes. If you're born in the wrong country, to the wrong family, at the wrong time, essentially, doors are closed to you, maybe forever. And it's sad, and it's sad to admit that. It's tragic, but I think it's important that we acknowledge the reality of that. And we realize that not everybody has the same opportunity that we do. And a lot of this, does it depend on hard work or does it depend on luck? Again, my opinion, feel free to disagree. It depends on luck, in my opinion. Okay. Number 4, seeking the unknown. Are you searching for answers? Now, this is similar to advancing the literature, but this is also a little bit different. It almost makes you more of like a visionary, right? It's almost like, these are questions that we just do not have the answer to. This is something that I want to help contribute to giving an answer to. Maybe something about life in outer space, or maybe something about, some unanswered question in physics, something like that. So let me ask you guys a question. If they're asking you your goals in a personal statement and you say one of these 4, I think it's going to come across as better than if you focus solely on yourself. Agree? I mean, I don't think that's a controversial statement, right? Yeah, okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on. All right. So my contribution, what are you in it for? Universities primarily want our money. That's true. Let's acknowledge the reality. Yes, that's true, but a secondary mission of most universities is the graduation of students who will help society move forward, who will do their best to address society's ills, who seek the unknown, who yearn to move science forward. Okay, not only society, but science as well. Convey that message to AdComs. All right, let me give you an example, everybody. Imagine we have a question, why do you want to become a doctor? Why do you want to become a doctor? I wrote this before class. Here we go. This is from yours truly. We all agree that today's economy is hyper-competitive. Jobs paying a living wage are rapidly disappearing. Entire industries are being replaced by phone apps. Households that were supported with one income in the 1970s now require both parents to work full-time professional jobs. But one job has remained robust throughout this revolutionary transition, that of a doctor. Doctors not only enjoy incredible job security, they earn a healthy living as well. The American dream is still possible if one pursues the path of the physician, a dream I'd like to realize at your institution. Many of my friends, all of them brilliant, are struggling to make ends meet, struggling to make rent, struggling to explore the best of what life has to offer. As a doctor, this will not be my fate. The medical field will open doors to a stress-free existence and grant me the opportunity to travel and see the world. That is why I want to become a doctor. Now, from a writing point of view, I would argue that the writing is pretty good. I mean, not to toot my own horn, right? But what about the message I'm conveying? What about the message I'm conveying? I wouldn't even say the message is generic. I would say the message is bad. I would, generic is obviously not an incorrect categorization, but I would say the message is almost self-serving. It's greedy. Tandy says it's too honest. Tandy's like, it's true. This is why I want to become a doctor. But yeah, it's it gives people the wrong vibe, right? I told you guys in a previous class I was interviewing with a military officer for one of the military academies. And I remember, why do you want to go to this military academy? And I'm like, oh, the job security. And, you pay for college. I don't want to have any debt. And I never said, serve my country. I never said, benefit people. And then the guy after, he actually gave me feedback. And he's like, I'm not going to recommend you. And of course, I was very defensive. You know how people are. They get defensive. I was defensive too. And I was like, why? What'd I do wrong? What'd I do wrong? And then he's like, you didn't say anything about helping other people, serving your country, recognizing the opportunity that you have. And of course, as an 18-year-old, do you actually listen to that or do you just shut it out? You just shut it out. You don't know what you're talking about, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But then, of course, years and years later, you get it. And you go, oh, okay, he was right. So I found him personally to be kind of an asshole, but he was right. He was right. I was wrong. So, why do you want to become a doctor? What would be better to say here? I'm not going to write it, but we'll just do some main points. Okay, let's look at the chat box. Some of you guys are saying help people. Let's take a look. Okay, help people. Save lives. Okay, what else? Improve the community. Okay, more equitable. Okay, so now these are all good things to say, but do you remember when Jacqueline said that this sounds a little bit generic? In my opinion, these sound a little bit generic. These sound a little bit generic because these are things that they seem almost abstract, help people save lives. I mean, it's true. It's a true sentence, but I think if we could be a little bit more specific here, also explaining how we're going to benefit the community or benefit the literature, I do think it would be a powerful personal statement. Yeah. So Tandy said a good one. Let's take a look. Provide ethnic-specific care to people of color. Tandy, I think that one would work really well with admissions committees. Here's how I would start it. So you always want to start it with kind of an attention-grabbing thing, okay? Check this out. America is the richest country to have ever existed. As a people, we hold more wealth than blah, blah, blah number of countries combined. Something like that. Maybe it's like 150 countries combined or 120, whatever it is. Yet, we rank 19th in infant mortality, 23rd in life expectancy. And I would just rattle off like 6 statistics, right? Statistics that highlight a paradox. We're the richest country on planet Earth to have ever existed, yet our healthcare is not great. So, automatically, doesn't that already set the tone? That, hey, this person cares about helping people. This person cares about bridging the gap. This person cares about making America a better place, etc., etc., etc. So that is how I would approach this personal statement. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? So Jainam says, is it good to state false statistics or false facts? So Jainam, I would obviously check these statistics, because if I was spouting a bunch of false statistics, that obviously would not be good. So in fact, let's look it up right now. America ranking infant mortality. America's ranking of infant mortality. I got to click on the link. No, you would not cite it in text. No, not in a personal statement, but you at the same time would make sure that it was correct. Okay. So out of 36 developed countries, America ranks where do you think in infant mortality? 33rd. 33rd. So near the end. Pretty crazy, right? Let's do life expectancy. America ranking life expectancy. Let's take a look. 26th. 26th. So you might be thinking, oh, you're just dumping on America. No. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, we are lucky to have been born here, or to search for educational opportunities here. We are truly lucky. If you think that there are 7.5 billion people in the world, we are truly lucky. So don't ever forget that. But at the same time, could America, or could the medical industry be better? Yes, it could. I think we can all agree about that. Yes, it could definitely be better. So I think if you convey that message in your personal statement, it's going to come across as more powerful. Okay, so hopefully I'm making sense here. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so here is an exercise for you guys. So I'm going to cross out the word doctor. And I want you to think about why you want to do what you want to do. Now, in the previous class, we were talking about it almost from a personal perspective. I want to do this because this happened to me, etc. But in this exercise, I want you to answer, why do you want to become a whatever it is, and talk about what you're going to say in terms of contributing something to others. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to think about this, because it's obviously an important question. All right, let me make sure you guys can see the timer. Okay, can everyone see the timer? Yep. Can we see it? Okay, cool. All right, guys, 4 minutes. Really think about this. How are you going to contribute in some small way to whatever field or society that you belong to? Okay. Can I have any volunteers? Tell us what field you're part of. Tell us how you're going to contribute to society or the literature or something like that. And then the more specific you are, the better. If you just say, I want to help people, it's a little bit too generic. It has to be a little bit more specific than that. Let's go to Jainam. Hey, Jainam.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Fine. Uh, I right now I'm pursuing computer engineering, and I would also like to pursue masters for the same.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yes. So, should I speak word to word? I have just created a basic idea for it.
Sure. I mean, if you want to, just whatever you say whatever you want to say. Sure.
Uh, I thought some basic ideas about what I should write. It goes like I grew up with technology just starting to burgeon when I grew. The thing is that technology, even being accessible to everyone right now, some parts of the world cannot access it due to the limitations in their various areas or where they live. The technology cannot reach them. What
Mm-hmm.
I would like is specializing in computer science and especially networks engineering.
Mm-hmm.
I would bridge that gap.
I like it. Yeah, very good.
Yes,
And do you live in India or do you live somewhere else?
yes, India, yes.
So if you want to start this essay in a really powerful way, you could say something like the year is 2021
Uh-huh.
and the world's second most populous country, India, with
Mhm.
1.4 billion people is home to 400 million people who don't have internet access.
Yes, that's a
Something
more,
like that.
more powerful thing. Yes, with statistics.
That's a number that's greater than the population of the United States. Boom.
Hmm.
It's like a double boom, right?
Yes, a greater boom.
Yeah. So do you see, if you're honest and you talk about, because I agree with you, I think lack of technology reach is an issue. And not just in countries like India, even in countries like Australia. If you ever talk to a
Yes.
person from Australia about their internet speed and stuff like that, it's really slow. It's really slow. So the fact that you would highlight that as a goal and an emphasis, I think is a good one.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. I like it. All right. Do we have any other volunteers? I can provide you commentary, give you a little bit of advice. Again, I'm not an expert, but if you guys want to volunteer, the door is open. All right. We have Athena. Hey, Athena. How's it going?
Hi, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. All right then. So, I will want to pursue an MBA,
Okay.
and then I want to specialize in becoming a consultant, basically or specifically for small SMEs.
What does SME
I
stand for
realized
again? I
there's a
forgot that.
small, medium scale businesses.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I realized for my part, I'm from Ghana and then a few African countries. I know it's a worldwide issue also. Most small scale of family owned businesses do not last
Mm.
too long
Mm-hmm.
across generations. Usually it's the first generation and then it's wiped out. So I want to, and usually you realize it's because they don't have strategy and then they don't focus too much on the future. So I want to help along those lines, help businesses build lasting strategies and then project growth
In my opinion, that would be
specifically for, yeah.
that would be brilliant. In my opinion, and I think that is a great way to approach your personal statement, and I think you could tie it into business school very well, and at the same time, you could tie it even into like the development of your country, right? You know, if we can get more medium and small businesses to be successful, we can create more of a middle class. If we create more of a middle class, et cetera, et cetera. So I like that a lot. Thank you for sharing. All right, let's go to Diana. Oops, sorry. Jacqueline, you'll be after Diana. Hey, Diana, how's it going?
Hi, Greg. So in our previous video, I mentioned that I would like to be a teacher, but it was a question like, what makes Diana Diana, something like that.
Right. So this is more about how are you going to help others?
Okay, so what I would say is, I just have one sentence to say. So I think the greatest part of becoming a teacher lets you, um, shape students' minds, like influence their decisions, because you are a role model, so you educate them, and so it's like you are like their second parent.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good approach. And obviously, you would want to include you're trying to influence them in a positive direction, right?
Yeah.
Because you can always influence a child in a negative direction, right? Their brains are like clay. You can just kind of mold them in many ways that you see fit. So, yeah, I think that's a really good way to frame it. You could say something to the effect of, you know, kids spend just as much time with their teachers as they do with their parents, or something like that. And in many cases, when they are at home, they're actually separated from their parents, maybe in their rooms by themselves, playing video games, etc. So in this way, a teacher actually has a tremendous influence on a child's brain, and I want to be part of steering them in positive directions, something like that. Yeah.
But the only one question I would like to ask, because if I say in the previous that my main concern was that I moved to the US because in Ukraine teacher salary is very low, and then I said, here is much better, and then I will say that I just want to influence there. Then how does it make sense?
That brings up an interesting point, because remember, you have more than one paragraph in your personal statement, don't you? So one of your personal statement paragraphs can talk about the lack of opportunity in Ukraine, right? It's like,
Yeah.
if I were to pursue this field in the Ukraine, I would not be able to do so in a sustainable fashion. I would probably burn out, et cetera, et cetera. So this is actually an interesting point. The entire personal statement does not have to be about you helping other people, right? But that can be a part of it. That can be one or two paragraphs. You see what I'm saying here?
Okay.
So doesn't that get us back into the idea of organizing your paragraphs? Like, this paragraph is going to be about the lack of opportunity in Ukraine. This paragraph is going to be about how I can positively influence students, like that.
All right. Thank you.
Make sense? Yep.
Yes.
Thank you for volunteering. Jacqueline is up next. Hey, Jacqueline.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. So my paragraph I wrote, in many cases, upward mobility for Americans, especially for those in destitute communities, comes from starting their own businesses and taking ownership of their work. So at the moment, I'm interested in specializing in business law and intellectual property to help folks who want to create their own entities and inventions, but don't have access to critical legal guidance to do so.
Perfect.
So that's just kind of
Yeah, perfect.
a brief synopsis. Yeah.
And to make a personal statement even more powerful, you can talk about maybe someone from your community who you knew, whose business, like he or she didn't necessarily know the legal rules that they had to follow. The business had to get shut down, or maybe they didn't have any access to credit because they didn't know about the legal kind of things that they could take advantage of.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good angle for your personal statement.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, you guys are doing a good job. I like these answers. So, all right, any more volunteers before we move on? Which timer software do you use? I looked that up today. It's called Xnote Stopwatch. Where's my marker? I can't find my marker. Hold on. I kind of need that to teach. Where are you? Huh. Okay. Well, that's not good. Okay, I'll find it later. It's got to be in here, right? No, I'm looking for the stylus of my tablet. I have a Wacom tablet, and it has a stylus that I write with. It's like a piece of plastic. Some Greg Map behind the scenes, everybody. Where the hell is it? Huh. Okay, I'll find that later. Anyway, if you're looking at the chat box, I will type it for you. So the name of the timer software is called X-Note Stopwatch. Right there. So Tint is asking an important question. Can you be self-serving in a personal statement? 100% yes. You can definitely be self-serving. Do you want that to be the entire point of your personal statement? I would say no. So for example, you could have one paragraph that talks about your accomplishments, one paragraph that talks about the accomplishment that you had in the academic realm, one accomplishment about the professional realm, and then you could have another paragraph that talks about how you want to contribute to society. Does that make sense, Tint? It's all about moderation, right? If the entire thing is about only you, it's going to, in my opinion, it's going to come across as a little bit shallow. Okay? Let's go ahead and move on, everybody. Okay, so here's a prompt. We've looked at this prompt before. And what I want you guys to do is I want you to organize this. So we're actually going to start synthesizing some of our ideas, which I would write, but I can't find the marker. Okay, everyone, we're going to take like a 2-minute break while I find this stupid marker. I found it. Guess where it was? It was in my lap. It was in my lap. So right when I stood up from my computer chair, it fell on the floor. So, okay. So we're going to start synthesizing ideas of what we talked about. So number 1, what was the first lesson that we talked about? Follow the directions. So can you talk about your career aspirations in this essay? What do you think? Can you talk about what you want to accomplish? Not really. They're not really asking you what your dreams or achievements are. Okay. Number 2, what did we talk about? The importance of organization. So how many paragraphs are you going to have? Paragraph 1 is going to focus on what? Paragraph 2 is going to focus on what? Paragraph 3 is going to focus on what? Etc., etc. Number 3, last time we talked about being honest. Try not to lie or exaggerate too much in your essay. Usually people can sniff that stuff out. And then finally today we're talking about it's not really about you. It's not really about you. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, I want you to combine all 4 of these lessons and I want you to organize this prompt. So here are the rules. Everyone must have 5 paragraphs. Your first paragraph is going to be some kind of introduction. Your last paragraph is going to be some kind of conclusion, like this is why I want to attend your school, blah, blah, blah. The real key is what are you going to do in paragraph 2, 3, and 4? Okay, I'll give you guys, let's say 4 minutes. Good luck. Okay, so I thought that I would do this one to kind of give you guys a little bit of an example. Okay. So the intro, the conclusion, it's basically just outlining things. So let's ignore those for right now. So body paragraph 1, this paragraph is going to be all about me. So nothing about really benefiting the world, nothing about, helping other people. So what I would say here is I have, traveled around the globe, been in many different countries, been there for, months at a time, even sometimes. And so obviously that's going to give me quite a unique perspective because I have, essentially seen the world. Not a lot of Americans have seen the world. So it gives me somewhat of a unique perspective. However, notice this paragraph is all about me. Right? This paragraph is all about me. Right there. The next paragraph, I have to make a decision. Is it going to be about me or is it going to be about society? In my opinion, it's going to be like a combination of both. So right here, me and society. So this paragraph will be kind of my philosophy as a teacher. And then how I think that a lot of the teaching that we do now is not very beneficial. We don't focus on skills. We tend to enforce rote memorization. We don't teach the history of things. We don't explain how difficult it was to figure out in the first place. And then finally, that allows me to transition to this idea that education needs to be affordable for everybody. And of course, I'm talking mostly about higher education because in the United States, public education is free, right? So notice what's going on here. It starts out with a kind of a singular focus on me. It then gets into kind of my teaching philosophy, which I think would benefit other people. And then finally, we get into this idea that education needs to be affordable in order to benefit as many people as possible. Now, in my case, would this sound like lip service or would I have some evidence to back it up? I would have some evidence to back it up. So that's what I mean, that you don't want to just be saying generic things. Try to say things that you have evidence for. Okay? Does this make sense, everybody? This organization? Okay. Can I take any volunteers? How would you organize your personal statement? Don't be shy. There's no wrong answers. It's not like a GRE essay. Are you guys all sitting in front of your computer just uncomfortable? Someone volunteer. Someone volunteer. Volunteer. Do it. I can't stand the awkward silence. Do it. Okay, here we go. Hey, Cameron, how's it going?
Hey, Greg, how you doing?
Good. How would you organize your personal statement here?
Good. So, I think really some of like the unique perspective that I bring is I'm 28, so I'm a little bit older than most of the people applying to master's programs. So I wanted to use my experience as an environmental scientist and working, and then also kind of like the bigger perspective that brings to very like statistics tends to be very focused on like minute problems, even though you can use.
Let me stop you. It sounds like you're losing organization.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're going off topic. So this paragraph would be about your kind of slightly older age in addition to your professional experience. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. And then
like
transition that into how that informs my perspective about how we can
is
use
this second paragraph? Now we're on the second
Yep.
paragraph? Okay, go ahead.
Yep, the second. Yep. Using that experience and what it taught me being an environmental scientist about the type of problems and kind of like a global perspective to solving problems rather than very minute statistics and math.
Oh, okay. I like that. So
very minute problems.
So your perspective is we should take a more global, kind of holistic point of view?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
Yep. And then finally, transitioning that about how that informs the problems that I want to try and solve, which is more focused on like basic, like rather than solving like very niche, like problems on like specific subsets of the population, which is tends to be what stats is used for.
Mm-hmm.
We can really solve problems at scale with statistics, and that are like those are like the big problems that we need to solve together.
To me, I like that a lot. I like that a lot because, I'm sure you've done some research that there's a huge problem in research that the vast majority of these experiments are conducted on like college students, like 18 to 22-year-old college students. And like Cameron said, a lot of these studies and these research experiments don't scale. So I think if you bring that kind of value and perspective, I think that's a really good organization. Yeah.
Great.
I like it. Well done, man.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Okay, any more volunteers? Somebody volunteer. We don't want the awkward silence. Hey, Priyanka, how you doing?
Hi, Greg.
Hey.
Yeah. So, I had written a rough SOP before.
Sorry, say again.
I had written a rough SOP before. So
You had
in
I'm so sorry. You had a what?
rough SOP statement of work.
Okay. So you're saying it was a first draft, or you're saying it wasn't very good?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be satisfied. Yeah, it wasn't really good.
Okay, so by rough you mean like not very good, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay,
Like,
okay. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. So the introduction was why was this field basically chosen by me? So, I am into pharmaceutical sciences. So,
Mm-hmm.
what I wrote was that the appeal of this field is such that the end objective is very philanthropic. That is why this is the field that I chose.
Okay, let me stop you really quickly. Remember our first piece of advice, follow the directions? Are they asking why you're attracted to the field?
So, are you saying introduction about me? Like, what am I?
I'm saying the introduction for this personal statement. And if you say that I'm attracted to the field of et cetera, because of et cetera, I might argue that you're not really following the prompt. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you should be talking about your values and your perspectives, not necessarily about why you chose a specific field. Does that make sense?
Okay. And is it same for even when there is no direction given? Because
To my knowledge, they usually give some kind of direction.
not all, but yeah.
Yeah, not all. So let's go to your first body paragraph. What would you talk about in your first body paragraph?
So, my first body was like to be aligned to this. This is why I had actually done my undergrad in this field, and wherein I got various opportunities such as research works, uh,
Sorry to
which
interrupt again. So before we get too deep into this, I would argue that you're not answering the question that they're asking you. Because what they're really asking is about your unique viewpoint of the world. So let's talk to you, Priyanka. What is
Yeah.
some kind of viewpoint that you have about the world, or some kind of value that you carry that you can bring to this program and kind of contribute to your peers?
uh, so somewhat points from that was like medicine should be a basic right for all.
Good. There you
And
go. Check. Now, I would argue that should be like the third body paragraph, right? Because you're talking about benefiting society in that respect. But good. I like it. How about a perspective that deals mostly with you? So for me, it was about traveling. For Cameron, it was about being an older student. How about you? What is something that makes Priyanka unique? Other than the fact that you're married to a Jonas brother.
hmm, that's
Yeah, do you see why if you talk about like I'm attracted to this field because of A, B, and C, do you think how the admissions committee might go, I'm not sure that Priyanka is actually answering the question here? Do you see what
yeah,
I'm
I get
saying?
it.
Yeah. So
Yes, yes, yes.
obviously you don't have to answer this right now. I'm not like trying to put pressure on you. Okay. So no pressure. But when you go home today or whatever, think about this question and think, okay, what is a unique value or a unique perspective that I have? And then that could be the topic of a paragraph. Something like educational is a right, healthcare is a right. That is a perspective. That is a viewpoint. And I think that would be a good topic of a paragraph. Yeah. Make sense?
And like talking, this should be the body, right? About what is unique.
Yeah, right now we're talking about the bodies. Yeah, so like for example, if you look at body number one unique perspective that I would bring to an MBA program, for example, is the fact that I've visited, I don't know, 30, 40 countries, something like that. And then a lot of Americans have not done that. So that's a pretty unique perspective. But notice, it's not really benefiting other people. When I travel in another country, it's not like I'm benefiting people. I mean, not really, right? So it's kind of a self-centered kind of thing. Then I would transition into my philosophy as a teacher, which is my perspective or my value. And then finally transition into my more, improving society as a whole value, something like that. Okay? Make sense? You with me, Priyanka?
Yeah, I am there.
Yeah, so what makes you unique? Like what viewpoint makes you unique?
So, I guess that I have closely viewed, saw that, how many people have been deprived, which actually uh, influenced me that, I should actually travel. I should actually go towards this field. This is, I guess.
Okay. You can talk about why you're attracted to the field, but it has to be kind of from a value and perspective. So, anything that kind of highlights your values, anything that highlights your perspective, something like that, you could definitely organize it that way. Sound good?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go to Jacqueline. Hey, Jacqueline, how would you approach this one?
So first body paragraph, talk about my background, which I feel like I sound like a broken record every time I apply to anything. Talk about I'm low income, first gen, a Latina student. And second body paragraph, right now I have, I guess, talk about my work. I was a little bit confused about what you're referring to as evidence.
When you say your work, you have to tie it into one of your values or one of your perspectives. If you start rattling off that I was voted employee of the year and stuff like that, would you be answering this topic?
No.
No, you wouldn't, right? But if you would say at work, many of my coworkers believe blah, 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 yet I argue that blah, blah, blah. Now we're getting into your values and your perspectives. Like, let's say, for example, at my work, I work with a lot of colleagues who don't seem terribly upset that tuition is $45,000 a year for students. In the faculty lunchroom, I rarely hear professors bring up this point. They bring up their research. They bring up the fact that, they don't like teaching undergraduate students, et cetera, et cetera. But very few of them go, hey, are we actually providing $45,000 worth of value to these students a year? And then I would say, and then that could kind of, it could kind of dovetail into my value and my perspective, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess I'm just struggling finding the evidence in my life.
Well, I didn't say this was easy.
Yeah.
That's the problem. People spend like 5 minutes organizing these things when in reality they should spend like 3 days, right? Or organizing these things. So give it some thought. You don't have to come up with your answer right now, but just keep in mind, whatever you say, it does have to address your value and your perspective, not necessarily what you did at your work.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, in the third body paragraph, I talk about how I want to use law to help smaller businesses, remain, and how to help people take ownership of their intellectual property, especially those in my community who have closed down, et cetera, et cetera.
And one thing you could do is you could always highlight why that makes you unique. And so you could say something like, in the law field or in the legal field, with the vast majority of law school graduates seeking a job at a big firm to work with a big corporate bank and make $200,000 a year, I feel like an emphasis on the small business owner is sorely lacking. Boom. And then you just highlighted why you're unique.
Great. I'll write that down.
Make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have Cameron's raising his hand. Hey, Cameron.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to answer or something that I thought helped a lot that you said earlier, which was just that a lot of these prompts have the structure in your response written into them.
Yes.
And especially if you look at the program objectives, almost all master's or PhD programs have program objectives. like my experience has been when I've been writing mine is that both of those combined pretty much like write the structure for your prompt.
Yeah, I think
your
you bring
answer.
up a very good point, Cameron. If does everyone see the S here? Does everyone see the S and the S? What are they telling you what are they telling you there, Cameron?
That they want multiple reasons.
Yeah, they want one
Or
paragraph.
multiple values,
Yeah,
multiple perspectives. Yeah.
one paragraph is value number 1. One paragraph is value number 2. One paragraph is value number 3. So I think Cameron brings up a really interesting point there. Thank you, Cameron. Okay. Does that make sense, guys? I think Cameron, he hit the nail on the head. A lot of times these prompts will give you the structure. Cool? Okay. So here's a homework assignment for you. So here's another prompt. What do you hope to gain professionally from the Wharton MBA? Now you can organize this in several ways. You could have one paragraph that talks only about you. I hope to, get a job at a corporate 500 firm. I hope to be able to, climb the career ladder. It could be a very kind of selfish paragraph, no problem. But you're also going to need a paragraph where you say, I hope to gain the multicultural experience that helps me thrive in this world, and then maybe increase equality or something like that. There has to be some kind of paragraph where you talk about giving back to society. Cool. All right, guys, that is all I have for you today. Let's do a quick recap of what we've discussed so far. Okay. So number 1, follow the directions. Follow the directions, right? Make sure you're answering the right question. You're answering the question that they're asking you. Number 2, organize your composition. Body paragraph 1 is about this. Body paragraph 2 is about this. Body paragraph 3 is about this. Number 3, be honest, be vulnerable. Talk about things that really prompted you to be the person you are. Have a character arc. Maybe talk about some of your flaws. And then number 4, it's not really about you, at least not all of it. 1, maybe 2 paragraphs, address how you're going to give back in some way. Okay. That is all I have for you guys today. We do have the Have a Beer with Greg session coming up. If you're interested in that, I'll see you guys at 9 o'clock. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.